I'm not going to South Africa for the G20 because I think their policies on the extermination of people are unacceptable.
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?
That is fear-mongering to pursue the agenda of white supremacy.
You think Trump is pursuing a white supremacist agenda?
Yes, I think so.
And there you have it, folks. This is the view of one of the most senior members of the African National Congress government, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Director of International Relations Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, the failed Justice Minister. This man is calling Donald Trump a white supremacist, a senior member of the government. This is the culmination of a year-long campaign to demonize Donald Trump by the ANC. I asked the African National Congress government not to do this. I practically pled with them not to be abusive towards the president and to work to resolve things. This all, of course, began from their perspective in January when Ramaphosa deceitfully signed the Expropriation Without Compensation bill into law, an illegal, unconstitutional act that he famously signed at Davos to make a big flurry and a big impression on the world. But the reality is he'd already signed the bill in December. Now, why would he sign it in December and then make a big deal about it in late January? Well, because in South Africa, 30 days after the president signs a bill into law, 1/3 of Parliament can go to the Constitutional Court and request a review to determine its constitutionality. This law would not have stood scrutiny and would have been struck down. Ramaphosa knew that, so he held on to the bill and didn't announce it publicly until the 30-day period had expired. Tricky, eh? Well, in response to that, President Trump decided that we're not going to give money to South Africa anymore because it's duplicitous. And from there, the rhetoric started. The insults, the attacks on the president, which predated this, of course.
Rasool blamed white supremacy behind Trump's disrespect for the global order. He also claimed that Trump's MAGA movement was a white supremacist reaction to increasing diversity in the U.S.
We saw two senior ANC officials, Ibrahim Rasool, the ambassador. You send an ambassador to the country and he goes to public events where he's recorded and he calls the president a white supremacist, America a racist country, and you think you're going to be welcome in the country? South Africa's not a racist country. I don't know that Ramaphosa is racist. I certainly don't believe he's racist. There's racist laws, but that's a different story than the person being racist. And certainly South Africa's not a black supremacist country. There are people who are black supremacists in South Africa. There's a clear distinction. And there's clear distinction when it comes to America, but not for Ibrahim Rasool and not for Ronald Lamola. This can no longer be simply the rantings of one fringe member of a political party, but rather two senior officials in the party. And the consequences are obvious. Tired of the nonsense, tired of the insults, the lies, tired of constantly being accused of using the term white genocide, which is something that the media in South Africa and the politicians, the ones running around talking about, almost every time Trump has talked about the term, it's been a response to a question from a journalist, which is just a setup. What do you think about genocide? Well, the genocide, yeah. Trump has said there are terrible things happening in South Africa, and that's true. It happens to black, white, and brown South Africans. But disproportionately, it's happening to certain South Africans. And the government of South Africa denies that, completely ignores it. And that's what Trump's upset about. Plus, the abrogation of property rights is outside the international norm. It makes South Africa a pariah state. In addition, South Africa is allowing weapons systems to be sold to Libyan warlords in violation of UN sanctions. And the list goes on and on and on. This is shocking, but it's not shocking. So now, tired of all this nonsense, Donald Trump finally said, we're not going to the G20 summit. And of course, the attacks came fast and furious on Donald Trump. But the reality is, he's far from alone. For different reasons. Russia's not going. China's not going. Argentina's not going. Mexico's not going. The U.S. is not going. 5. Japan reportedly isn't confirmed yet, and it's just days away. That's 6. And rumors today, which are unconfirmed, so we can't count on that, say Italy's not going to go. I predicted if anyone didn't go, it might be Italy or South Korea. But whether they go or not, we're already down to 14, possibly 13 countries of the G20 sending their leaders. Yet none of these countries are receiving vicious attacks from politicians and the media in South Africa, only the United States. And this is because Donald Trump has hurt their feelings because, well, this is their big moment. Except it's not the big moment. The South African government has turned the G20 into the beggars market. Yes, it's turned into the UN General Assembly.
The U.S. is back on the international stage as a leader. We have whittled down the G20 back to basics. We are making it work for the American people better than ever. We have The G20 had become basically the G100 this past year. So it will be a concentrated group in Miami seeing the best America has to offer with American leadership, thanks to President Trump.
Inviting everyone under the sun to come to convince them that we must yet again forgive debt in Africa from deadbeat countries who borrow money and squander it and then cry, colonialism and racism just to make people feel guilty and give away the money. Well, it's not going to work. We did HIPC, the Heavily Indebted Poor Countries Initiative. We did enhance HIPC. We've forgiven billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars and still giving money out to African countries that waste it. They agree to good governance standards and then they just simply don't follow them. At some point, you have to quit being stupid. This is why the African Growth Opportunity Act has ended. This is why aid to South Africa has ended. If you keep giving money to people who abuse you and insult you and attack you and undermine your interests, well, then you're just a fool. Well, the United States has been a fool for 2.5 decades, and now Trump has said no more. So he's become the target. And that is foolish. Ask the ANC not to do it. Please don't do this. It's foolish. This is not how it works. But they did it. And now Ronald Lamola on CNN calls Donald Trump a white supremacist. Predictably, Trump has had enough. And today, the 18th of November, in response to a reporter's question once again, this is what Trump had to say.
That are taking place. Some Palestinians are being charged up to $2,000.
I'm not going to South Africa for the G20 because I think their policies on the extermination of people are unacceptable. So I'm not going. So I won't refer to anything having to do with South Africa. South Africa has behaved extremely badly.
Former Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool does not share that remorse over his comments about the U.S. president.
So there you go, folks. Trump has had enough. It's pretty clear. Meanwhile, some South African officials claim that they're negotiating with the United States to lower the 30% tariffs, but that's far from the reality. There is no trade negotiator. South Africa has not appointed a trade representative to the United States. Many countries have. Many countries already had one, but South Africa doesn't. Not only that, South Africa doesn't even have an ambassador resident in Washington. It has a so-called special representative, Nkabisi Jonas, an ANC party cater stalwart, who's never been to America in that role. He's gone to the UK, apparently, but he's never come to America. So I don't know what kind of special envoy he is. He's a special advisor to the President Ramaphosa about American matters. I'll accept that. But special envoy, you can't be an envoy if you never go visit people. He's not an envoy. So there's no ambassador. There's no trade representative. There's no trade delegation in Washington. Meanwhile, we repeatedly see the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, the Foreign Minister, Ronald Lamola, and the Trade Minister, Parks Tao, the three most important people, negotiate things for South Africa, other than a trade representative, in Vietnam, dancing the night away, in China, and elsewhere, negotiating deals for stone fruit and things like that. As Nile River virus and foot and mouth disease run rampant and eviscerate the stocks of sheep and cattle in South Africa, the agriculture minister is in Vietnam and China. And none of them are negotiating a trade deal with the U.S. It's not going to get pretty from here on. And if South Africa thinks they can win this war of words, you can call someone all you want. That's fine. They can do the same to you. But the difference here is the United States can crush South Africa if it wants to. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's hope the ANC stops acting like petulant children and starts acting like adults when it comes to foreign policy. This is something they accuse Trump of, acting like a petulant child. But he isn't the one who's been running around in meetings and going to the press and lying about what the South Africans have been saying. He's just been accused of getting things wrong. And he's made a few misstatements, no doubt about that. President Trump has. He's also made broad generalizations. But the bigger picture, he's not wrong about. 145 race-based laws is racism. Reserving privilege, location, duties, grants, government access to people based on skin color is flat-out racism. It's not correcting historical wrongs. You want to correct historical wrongs, there are other methods to do that. You provide aid to those who are poor, who don't have access to opportunity. Then they get a chance. And then you let the best win in the marketplace. But reserving skills for people simply based on their skin color is a racist. Destroying the cultural heritage of the Afrikaans speaking and the Afrikaner people is racist. Trump is not wrong about that. Whether he used the term white genocide or he says this or slaughter, or now he's using the term extermination. Clearly, he's had enough of the nonsense coming out of Pretoria. This is probably prompted by what came out of the mouth of Ronnie Lamola on Donnie O'Sullivan's bogus documentary about South Africa.
With the program to take the white Afrikaners from South Africa, it's a clear program to back up the issue of white supremacy.
Trump's had enough. CNN has fueled a fire. Ronnie Lamola poured gasoline, jet fuel on that fire. Not smart, folks, not smart. Well, there you have it. Trump's had enough. What comes next? Hopefully, things will calm down, but it can get very ugly for South Africa. What say you, South Africa? Mzansi. Cheers.